Oh, goodness. Are we almost ready to start?
I see Representative Exum. I see most have joined from SDE.
For sure. I just want to let you know, recently I attended a federal
I don't know that you are not muted.
task force regarding.
Somebody want to mute her? Tammy, are you running this meeting?
I guess so. I don't know where Senator McCrory is. Um, do you want to wait a few more minutes or go ahead and get started? And good morning, everyone. Morning.
Senator McCrory has just entered.
Just Senator McCoy just entered, but please give me a minute because I want to transition to my computer instead of my phone. Is that okay?
Yep.
Sure.
Are you young people? Du-du-du-du-du. Du-du-du-du-du. Appropriation. You guys are always on time. And
Yes, we are, because we have
embarrassing me.
time
Yeah.
is not on our side.
1 second, I'm almost there.
Are you technologically challenged?
I'm coming back from a breakfast. I had to go to a legislative breakfast just now.
Oh.
So I've been out working. All right, I think I'm almost there. Boom. And okay. So as soon as I come up.
There
Okay. Here we go. Let me get out of this one. All right. All set.
Good morning. So, and thank you so much, Commissioner. Oh,
I couldn't hear you. 1 second, I can't hear.
We can hear you.
Yep.
I can't hear. 1 second. All right, now I can hear. I hear Tony laughing, so I know I'm good.
Oh, good. All right. All the technical issues are worked out. Good to see you, Senator.
Good to see you, young people.
So, just to kick off, we had a lot of questions that came through with the, with SDE. And so I think the best thing for us to do is to go ahead and get started going through some of those answers, unless you all would rather start in a different place. But I think that might be the best way to kick off and ask questions throughout. We have SDE from 11 to 12. There's quite a bit of material to cover.
Yeah, there is.
I want to thank you very much, Representative. I want to also thank SDE because they actually drowned us in answers. So
They drowned us in answers.
Thank you.
Sure. And Representative Walker?
No, I'm just raising my hand to ask questions.
Oh, okay.
We only have an hour.
That's right. So we have to get moving. Okay. So Commissioner, would you like to go? Why don't we go ahead and get the questions and then we can kind of work through. So Rep Walker, do you want to go ahead and kick off then?
Okay, I'm fine. I'll do whatever that you and the chair want. Yes.
So you just want to go into questions, or you want SDE just to answer our?
Okay, but okay, we can go through this.
No. Unless you have a specific question that wasn't answered before, just ask that question and then let them address the questions that we already.
Let's address the questions and I'll wait. I'll wait.
Okay, because there's so much material here, and
Right.
it would be good, and they may answer that.
Yep.
Okay, Commissioner, I'll kick it off to you. Good morning.
Good morning to you, to all our policymakers here. Nice to see you as always, and appreciating the team. And as you mentioned, you asked us a lot of questions, and we wanted to make sure you have as comprehensive answers as you possibly can. So you asked, and we've provided for you. I know some of them, as you said, we may not get through everything, but I know, for example, there was a lot of interest in school breakfast. We've led off with that. We've provided you some attachments. And so if you don't mind, we can just quickly just summarize what we gave you in the packet. I think that would be helpful.
That'd be helpful.
Yes.
And then we can walk through and answer your questions. So perfect. Thank you. So let me start with school meals. And you've all met John Frasinelli, who actually is closest to this work because he oversees all of that for the state. But what we provided you is an attempt, as Senator Austin had asked last time, for us to do a survey of selected districts. We did that. We provided information, but this was our attempt to kind of right-size the questions that you asked and questions that we were also asked in Education Committee about school breakfast, and just providing some background and context for you.
Commissioner, pardon, I apologize. May I just ask that as we go through the documents that you've provided, that you identify them by their title line so that we know which one to go to?
Perfect. Will do, Representative. Thank you. So we provided you Appendix 1, 2, and 3 to go specifically to address the issue of school breakfast. And so I don't know if maybe if you're nodding, you're telling me maybe you can find those. So they're labeled Appendix 1, 2, and 3. The
Yes.
survey, the raw results, and a state-funded program Excel spreadsheet. What we wanted to share with you is that the governor's proposal, as you know, really was based on replacing the revenue for meal charges shouldered by families. I know we had additional questions about making districts whole, but I just really wanted to address that because that really was really important for us to think about. And to make it even more concrete, you should know that for a family of four based on the federal income guidelines, making $60,000 is not eligible for free or reduced price meals. Family of four, $60,000. I just really want to put that in the space. So it is clear when we say that this proposal was really trying to address the cost for families. This $12.5 million was really purposed to do that. So wanted to set that context right. And so what we were asked to do, as I mentioned, was to try to figure out what is the cost to districts. And we did a survey getting that information out. And as you can see from those results, that the majority of those who responded to us are basically telling us that they do not look to the local Board of Ed to help to supplement. They're able to live within the means of the federal reimbursement, then the state reimbursement, and the meal charges that they have. And so that's the results that we received. I know that there were concerns about individual districts that you have that are not necessarily living within their means. And we have a team here that really tries to work with districts. Part of the other complicating factor when districts are responding to us, some districts are self-administered. They prepare their own meals. They hire their own staff. Some of them do a food management company with different cost centers that's a part of that. So that's a part of some of the complexities of what we're working with as we're trying to provide you that information. But what we also shared with you, so we gave you survey results, and I'll have John just quickly talk about that. And then we shared with you the additional funds, state funds, that you're providing to districts above and beyond the federal reimbursement that they receive, which is increased every year by the federal government. So just putting that into place, John, could you just say a little bit about the survey, what we've learned? I think that would be helpful.
Sure, thank you, Commissioner. What you're talking about, because we've got a lot of documents from you. I'm trying to go through them and kind of follow along with it. If you happen to have the document you're talking about, you can pull it up on the screen. And then I have a question when you're done, John. Sorry.
That's a good point, because I can't follow.
I'm literally, there's like 4 different ones on like the nutrition programs and all that. So I'm trying to kind of figure out exactly which ones we're looking at.
And
Do you
Commissioner,
want
aren't
us-
you,
And,
aren't-
and also referring to it by appendix 1, 2, and 3, when I print the copies and lay them out in front of me, they don't say appendix 1, 2, and 3.
Okay,
They have a title of the document.
mine does. So this is the one that says school meals at the top. That's the document they're working on. And there's a responsive documents, appendix 1, 2, and 3 on that first page. Is that-
yes,
That's the document we're working
we're
from.
working through.
But
That's
Yeah.
correct.
We have like 4 different emails and I don't.
I know, I know,
Yeah.
I went through them as well. This one has 20 pages to it. And it'll be great if it can come on. I'm just telling you, that's the one we're working from if you have the hard copy.
Do we have access, Representative Laura, you're here, do we have access to put it on the screen? Are we, because
Yes.
we can do that?
You do have
That'd be good.
permission
Okay,
to share.
That'll be good.
all right.
Which
so Laura,
document would you like me to share, Commissioner?
why don't you start with Appendix 1, Laura, the survey summary, and then John just quickly talk through the survey summary. Thank you all. I know you've got a lot of documents in front of you, so.
I killed the smoke free this morning. I'm going to hell.
Sorry about that.
Maybe we need to be more concise in our questions, and that would help too.
Yeah, that would help.
That would
And
help.
Rep Nuccio, we decided to let them present because they only have an hour and then we'll get to questions if they don't ask them. If you wouldn't mind holding that.
Yeah, that's fine.
Thank you.
The document you have on the screen is the summary of the survey that we conducted. Both the Excel spreadsheet, which is Appendix 2, and this document are from the same survey. The Appendix 2 is the actual responses from the districts that we surveyed, the 23 districts that we surveyed. And then this is a summary document that summarizes the percent that provide breakfast in the classroom versus breakfast in the cafeteria, the percent who provide breakfast in general, and then in what grade. So that's the summary. That's really just a summary of those things. Do all schools participate in the breakfast program? You can see the results on that.
Is this a specific district, or this is all your districts in
This
one?
is 23 districts. We
Combined, okay.
sampled five or six large, 5 or 6
Yeah.
medium, and
Okay.
5 or 6 small.
Okay,
So this is the results of all those. Again, you have the specific answers in the Appendix 2. So this, including in this, is what some of the questions were about. Does the district provide any funding? I'm on question 20, Laura. Does the district provide any funding to support the districts? You'll see in question 20 what they support: food costs, supplies, utilities, janitorial services, etc. So this is again a summary document from the Excel spreadsheet. On the Excel spreadsheet, you'll see specific. Maybe we could pull this down and put up Appendix 2 if everybody's up for that.
yeah.
Okay.
Quick question, John. When
Sure.
the question here says, does your district participate in the school food program? Does that mean the federal program or
Yes.
something else? The federal,
So,
all federal programs, CEP and the other stuff that the federal government provides?
the question was specifically about breakfast. There are some CEP districts and some non-CEP in the survey.
Thank you.
All right, so apologies for this. This is really a giant document. We didn't really have a way to condense it. But what I'll point out here is these are responses directly from the school food service director. And one of the questions specifically asked in the last session was the cost of providing a breakfast meal. And so you'll see that in column P. They will indicate what it costs them to put a breakfast on. The range is, I believe, from about $1.75 in some districts to $3.57 in other districts. I will say that some of the responses included costs associated with labor and supplies, and some actually just responded with the price they charge for breakfast. So a couple of things to consider here is that districts can make up and usually do make up revenue. So if you see a price tag of $3.57 for breakfast, districts use a la carte sales. They do catering of in-school events. They can sell what we call non-program foods to make up some of that cost. And some are using the revenues from lunch to support their school breakfast program. And I'll just pause there.
John, if you can just speak to what we've learned specifically from them, though, about the BOE having to supplement that cost.
Yes, we do have a number of districts where the Board of Education does supplement that program. We have 54 out of the approximately 170 programs that participate. Their Board of Ed does supplement, and the remainder don't. So about 115 or so, they don't supplement. The range is anywhere from 0 to, there are a couple of outliers, and the average across all of those districts, including the 0, is about $46,000 per district that's invested. But again, 115 don't put any money in. The reason why it's such a high number is we have a couple of outliers. Middletown puts in $1 million. The Connecticut Technical High School System puts in $2 million. Others are much lower than that. So that's also some of the subsidies. And I will also just say that some of the programs have always invested in their school meals program at the beginning of the year. And then we require that they reconcile their food service accounts by the end of the year. So in some cases, this is an investment to improve the quality of school meals. And in some cases, if they end up at the end of the year with a deficit, then the district has to provide some of that funding. And sometimes that deficit is as a result of school meal debt, unrecovered school meal debt, when families haven't had money in their accounts, but the district provides them with a meal as required by law. That becomes a district responsibility at the end of the school year if they can't collect that money from parents.
So can I ask one question? Because I know I'm not the brightest person in the room. You said the cost of the meal can vary from like $1 something up to like $3 and something, correct? The cost of breakfast. And based on the resources that's coming from the federal level and the state level, I think it's like $2.40 something. Is that correct?
$2.46 is the per breakfast reimbursement.
Right, from the state level. So anything above that, the school district is subsidizing the difference in the cost of the meal. Is that correct?
Well, we also, if you want to pull up Appendix 3, Laura, that is what the state provides to each district. So the state provides close to $9 million through a state matching program, through what we call a severe needs school breakfast program.
But on average, the state is putting in about $2.40 from federal and state money is $2.40, and the cost can be either a little below that, $1 something, or it can be a little above that. Is that correct?
The federal government is $2.46.
Right.
The state doesn't provide a per meal reimbursement currently, but provides these grant programs that you see on the screen.
Okay. All right.
So those grants are those we were saying $12 million in addition to these grants.
The state is providing $12 million in addition to what we're getting from the feds. Is that right?
This here is about 9 million, right?
No.
This is what we're already supplying to the towns.
Right.
The 12 million in the budget is in addition to this 9 million?
Yes.
Yes.
So just to be clear, the $12 million, even though some of the language in the legislative proposals say it's a grant program, it's not really a grant program. We only reimburse districts, obviously, for the meals that they serve to kids. So we're not giving them a chunk of money. We're giving them this money, this $8.5 million. But with the $12 million, we're not forwarding that money to them. We're using that to reimburse them on exactly the number of meals that they provide to kids.
On top of this, though?
On top of this.
Yes, that's
correct.
Right.
Okay, so I guess my question is, Commissioner, I know when we gave money back in ARPA, we put like a high dollar amount like this in, but then we didn't use all. So the number was significantly lower than what we had originally thought it was going to be through ARPA. So I guess that's where I'm a little confused. If we have this 8.5, 8.6, 8.7 million that we're currently giving schools, and it's only certain schools that qualify for this grant. Now we're saying we need an additional 12 million to be able to provide free breakfast for everybody, that number was a lot lower in actual spend during COVID. So how are we getting to so we're looking at about $20 million in order to provide free breakfast to everybody in the state.
Well, the $8.6 million they get anyway, that's not part of, well, one of them is part of providing a school breakfast. But the $12 million, $12.5 million for the total program is the same amount that we spent in reimbursing meals in 2024 school year. If you recall, in the 2023 school year, we had a break, right? We had funding up until December, and then we had a break January, February, March. And then we resumed, and that's why that amount for breakfast was less in fiscal 23.
Let me let Kathy ask a question, but that's a good question, Rep. Nuccio. We can explore it later, but that's a very good question. Kathy, you had a question? I see your hand is up.
Thank you. So when we're talking about those that subsidize school breakfast, are there different qualities of school breakfast out there? That was a question that came up during the hearing on whether or not it was a quality differential in some districts. And because there are some that may be doing school breakfast today, the in quotes communities that are a little bit wealthier, they may be already doing it. No, now we're going to give them a stipend for the kids that they have having breakfast. Is there a difference in the quality of school breakfast with those towns that are subsidizing it, bringing it up to $3 or $4 a meal? I'm curious as to where we stand on that.
So I would say anecdotally that the district subsidies do not automatically equate with the quality of school meals or the quality of the program.
Okay.
And there are certainly differences in the quality of the items served in the school meals programs based on the size of the school, their purchasing power, what they have access to, things like that.
So we don't really know if there's a difference in quality for some school districts than other school districts, other than anecdotal information. Because I get anecdotal information that's exactly the opposite, that some schools have better quality food because they can afford different things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
I understand exactly what you're asking, Kathy.
I don't think that ever goes away, right? If we supplement and say we're gonna give $12 million for school lunches, right? And they're already getting 8.7 million, so it's $20 million that we're gonna be putting out for this. If other towns decide they want to put more money on their town side into it to provide a different lunch, how do we tell them that they can't do that?
I'm not saying that they can't do it. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that some communities can afford more and are already paying some school meal costs. Now this is going to be for every school.
Right, but I guess they're gonna still do that, right? Like, how do we, if you're talking about Greenwich, right, and we give them amount of money for free breakfast, and they want to plus up their meals from their own budget, I guess I don't understand. Like,
I would say that I would posit that we shouldn't give them any money because they already have the capacity to do this, and are doing it right now. If they're already feeding kids, why would we want to give them state dollars to augment a budget they are already spending money on? We could use that money in other school districts that cannot afford to in quotes plus up the school breakfasts.
I think sorry.
Good. Because I want
So I just want to make a clarification. So the funding that the governor's put forward for these programs is to pay for the family cost, what the family is currently using to pay for these meals, right? So the family is paying, reduced price families are paying 30 cents per meal, right? And so this is to alleviate the burden on the families in addition to the benefits of breakfast. I can tell you that when we rolled out these programs in the past couple of years, right, there are estimated 164,000 kids who could avail themselves for breakfast, who are either in a paid or reduced price category. I can tell you that on a daily average, the participation is only about 40,000 per day. So not everybody is taking advantage of that. The other thing I would say about purchasing power is as participation in breakfast goes up, revenues go up, right, for the district, and increases their ability to make better deals for the products that they're purchasing for their meals programs.
But this policy change is that all schools will be required to provide breakfast, right?
That's what the language in the legislative bill says. Yes, shall.
And so if they shall provide it, that is, and you're saying that the money that we're giving is only to help out the families. What is going on in the school district? Because we're going to hear this at the end of the day. We are going to hear from school districts. You made a mandate that requires us to pay for school meals and provide school meals, but the money is going to make sure the parents don't pay for it. But there will be no bill for the parents at all anymore, right?
Correct.
Right. So it truly is, Senator Austin, as you're talking about, it is universal access for children and supporting their families. It truly is that. And that additional cost, as I said before, family of four, $60,000. That it's good to think about what it is that we're trying to do here for children and their families. That really is the proposal. But to your other point, Senator, as we've mentioned, the reason it's so hard to pin down that number is because school meals are not all created equal, as I mentioned before. Are you self-operated, right, in terms of what it is that you're purchasing and buying and your staff, versus are you going to a vendor and purchasing unitized meals? And so that's why it's so hard just to say, if I give you $1 more, is that going towards the meals, or is that going towards your staffing, or is that going towards, it's all of those things have to be a part of it. Or are you, do you have a vendor and now you're paying for some other charges as well? So it doesn't, I think that's what John is saying, is not always a one-to-one. If I give you $2 more, you're going to now put $2 more towards what it is you're purchasing for the meals. You're putting $2 more towards your food service in general. And it's hard to say where that is going. We continually work with our school districts. We've got a staff of nutritionists and dietitians that are helping with meal quality, and also helping districts when we see them kind of hemorrhaging their budgets, to help them to find efficiencies in their system as well, which is not all food related.
Commissioner, can
I
I
have a
ask?
question. Oh,
Go ahead, Tammy. I got one
thank
question.
you.
I want to move on because we only have another half an hour.
I was going to say, we're all
Exactly.
one half hour,
Exactly.
one question.
I'm very mindful, but I want to ask this question. Just to clarify for me, if a district is already paying and providing for their children universal breakfast, that district won't need any funding. Is this for the ones that are not doing that, or is this something that everyone would get an allocation for?
I would think they're going to do it.
This is for the programs that are not currently providing universal access for breakfast. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
That's a good point. And my last question to this, and hopefully so we can move on, is there are districts that are saying that every year they're losing, they're behind because they're not getting the resources from the parents who are not paying. Can some of this money pay off that debt?
Yeah.
If this goes into place for breakfast, there shouldn't be any debt from breakfast. But this funding, my understanding is that this funding would not be used for paying off meal debt at the end of the year.
Okay. And Tina, one more last one, so we only got a half an hour.
Sorry, but it's going to be hard to vote on this unless we know, at least for me, unless we know, here's how much Connecticut's getting from the federal government. Let's assume we can continue to expect that. Here's how much the state is putting in now. Here's how much the state will be putting out then. And how many more kids are we going to feed through this universal breakfast program? And what is the delta between what the state's willing to put in and what the districts will be left holding the bag with? Those to me are like the fundamental numbers that will enable us to decide on this, per Senator Austin's point, which is it'll be an unfunded mandate otherwise. And I hope it doesn't penalize the districts that are trying to do that now, like Greenwich has 19.5% kids on this right now.
Yeah.
And we have the answers to all of those questions with the exception of the last one, right? We know what the estimated participation is going to increase. We know that the federal government's actually reimbursement for breakfast goes up on average 9 cents every year. So we anticipate that federal reimbursement will be elevated as well. So we can send you all of that. And then the last question is really hard to know unless we have a survey for all of the districts that are participating.
That's exactly right. Yeah. Because this is only for a handful. Could we move on to adult ed, or do we need to? Oh, I'm sorry, Rep. Belinsky. Rep. Belinsky.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to steer off in a different direction because we only have a few minutes left. But you know, in 2 prior meetings, I've asked the commissioner if we could have an accounting of the $2.5 million of seed money that was given to the startup of the Office of Dyslexia and Reading Disabilities. And is that included in any of this information?
You know what, Rep. Belinsky, if you wouldn't mind, could we go through the material and see if we get to that?
We don't have enough time to go through them. That's why
I know, but respectfully, we asked a lot of questions and we spent half our time on this really important topic, but we do need to go to.
That's special ed's not important. That's right.
That's what I literally started a SEPTO in our town. It is very important, but I also think we need to be respectful of our agenda. And they gave us all this material for us to preview. If we could start with the adult education piece and kind of go through the notes that you all gave us to answer questions.
Sure. So thank you. There was just a question about what it would cost to fund if the cap were removed from downtown, and we just shared that with you. The number is right there. We didn't send you any other attachments with that. So there's that response. Hopefully that's helpful, that we know how much it would be uncapped. The next were the student enrollment demographics, and we sent you an attachment for that. Laura, you can pull up the Appendix 4. And we also included in that document pretty much, so, you know, we gave you all the new numbers that we have so you have that in your document. And then in the memo itself, we quickly went through some of the things that Ajika Paula Christian had shared with you on the enrollment shifts and the enrollment changes. So I don't know if there's any questions specifically on that, but you do have that information in your packet.
Can I just ask one quick question on that? Did enrollment go down in our schools in total? Did we lose more children?
Yes.
How many?
Over 10,600 fewer students in 25-26 than in 24-25.
Okay.
Thank you.
And I think real quickly, if you only can answer this in 10 seconds, I know Tony asked about this, and she also asked about if we didn't have the home harm list, how much money would the state will be quote unquote saving because we dropped 10,000 students. Did you have a quick number for that, a roundabout number for that?
So that's the next one, Senator. ECS in your packet on page 3.
Clearly, I don't have my packet before me.
Okay. So Laura, you can maybe just go to the document and let's see, Jessica Brunetti, our fiscal person. We explained the kind of different kinds of hold harmless definition that we have, and specifically then talked about what would happen if you didn't have the hold harmless and what that number would look like. Jessica?
Hi, everyone.
Can you make that a little bit bigger, please?
Yeah.
Hold harmless is, we have to look at it in a couple different ways. It's related to the overfunding of municipalities through the alliance districts, and also because of the decrease in funding with the decrease in students. So there's a few pieces, there's a few components, and there is a more detailed analysis, and there's a few paragraphs of breakdowns of what's included here, but there is for each district the variance between what fiscal year 27 would look like without the hold harmless and then with the hold harmless. So there are pretty significant differences, and across all of the districts, it comes to about $230 million.
Can you go down just a little further? Because I don't see one where there's a negative.
Yeah, there is. They don't have any that have negatives.
So everybody would be going down.
Everybody would, all of these, so that the difference is everybody would be getting less money. So these are all negatives.
Everything is a less. Okay. All right.
Everything is less. Yeah.
I think, Doug, one of the things that we would have to talk about, if you want to really talk about this, like this is basically saying the state should be funding less, but all of our MBR language disputes that, right? I don't know a single Board of Ed budget in this Connecticut that has gone down with the reduction of 10,000 because everything goes up. So they end up spending more per student and everything else because MBR and everything else makes it so you can't spend less.
Right.
Like right there, East Granby went, if we're saying it's $20,000, right? Every school is going to say, well, I can't just cut a teacher for $20,000, right? It doesn't equate to one teacher and it's spread out over all these grades. Like the MBR really prevents you from cutting a school budget.
So,
But
I would also say that there is no consideration here that, so we'll use a town like, these are all towns in my district. Hebron, Lebanon, Ledyard, and Lisbon have not seen an increase in ECS since before 2017. Yet their costs have increased year over year because electricity costs more,
Right.
insurance costs more, teachers cost more. We require paraprofessionals, which when I grew up, we didn't have paraprofessionals. And we ask for them to keep their student population in, here, stop for a second. So this to me is an exercise in dealing with, so you're saying that today, New Haven could cut their budget by $13 million. That is.
Well, I think it's not, I don't even think that it's they could cut their budget. This is looking at like the state, according to their formula, without all of the different hold harmless provisions, including alliance districts. This is saying that as far as the state of Connecticut is concerned, they're overfunding New Haven by $14 million because it doesn't take into consideration, like you just said, Kathy, all of it's a flat number. It's the fatally flawed formula. Right?
It is.
Now, what we're saying is, hey, this is how much the state thinks it should be paying, which is $14 million less in New Haven than what it's currently getting. But I guarantee you, if you look at New Haven's Board of Ed budgets from the same time period, it is
go up to Hartford.
It is increased exponentially because we're not keeping up. Like, and MBR makes it so you can't cut the school budget.
I don't care about MBR. I don't. MBR is, we could change MBR tomorrow. All that does is provide students with less education. Not it doesn't do anything. It doesn't. We created MBR because schools were cutting in areas that did not provide any resources. So Hartford right now would get a cut of almost $10 million. I don't see that as happening.
But I'd like to clarify. This
Go ahead,
isn't the
Jessica.
state's calculation. This is calculation based on what's in legislation. So this isn't us making up a calculation. This is how
I'm not blaming you. We're talking about the policy here. We're not talking about you. We're not saying this is SDE. We're saying.
So Tammy, go ahead. Tammy, go ahead.
So as we were saying, well, I didn't want to comment on this. I know special education is another area that we have next in our packet. And I want to make sure we're able to talk about excess cost. This is really important. I feel like we need to almost have another meeting. We just don't have enough time to go deep on, and everyone should be able to ask their questions. And so I understand that. But I do want to make sure we hit excess cost. Senator McCrory, I don't know if he has something on the last.
Yeah, no, I just want to
topic.
continue, go on to the next point, but I think what both people are saying, Tammy and Kathy, you both are right. I mean, both of you guys can be right at the same time. And that's an area that we do have to have a deeper dive in. MBR is very important because costs are going up every year. Every teachers get contracts, they increase by 3 or 4 or 5%. And if they get cut from the state level, many times the locals are not be able to make up the difference. And so that's a larger conversation we need to have further. But I would love for you guys, SD, to continue on to the next question because we got still a lot more stuff.
And I do think the special education, which I know we're going to look at, that also plays a role, the excess as well. I mean, we have so many more students who are qualifying. So if we can move into excess costs, I'd appreciate it.
Which is your next question. And I just want to say one quick thing. We came to your appropriations and we shared with you the changes in enrollment. The question was asked for us, right, to do this representation. I don't believe you were looking to make cuts. It's a matter of transparency and understanding about what these numbers and the fluctuation mean in actual ECS calculation. So that's what we provided to you. Similarly, excess special education and excess costs. And the question is how much it would cost to fully fund. And we provided that to you here. Don't know if there are questions. Jessica, this is yours as well.
140 million, huh? 140 million to fully fund.
The fully funded excess cost is $140 million. Is that correct?
In 27.
Yes.
Okay.
In 27.
91 million. Well, but
And that is not, that is only if it's from the today's dollars. If we did 26, another 90 million, then you're not going up 140 million. They kept the 25 number is what it is today, and not accounting for. And if we had been incrementally increasing this, we wouldn't be in that problem. And because the other thing is we don't seem to understand that these young people who are receiving services require more dedicated staff that are increasingly more expensive themselves.
Yeah.
Their college experience is more for a special education teacher. It's not there's regular education, there's special education, there's distinct needs for certain children that have educational services that are more expensive for a variety of reasons than a student who doesn't need special education services. These are the most neediest children that we have. They are those that are in the 4.5 times above. So we're already requiring the schools to take care of the first 4.5 times. This is above and beyond that 4.5 times. And I think that needs to be understood. And I still posit that the number of young people that end up in corrections who have special education needs, and most of them are diagnosed with special education needs that they were never diagnosed with before. And that is because the schools do not want to cannot afford to take on the expensive component of special education. And so they just don't do it. And then we're shocked when these young people end up in prison and they have dyslexia, they have autism, they have other needs, or because we are still dealing with the consequences of having a recognition of DD at being at 69 IQ when they're at 70 or 72 or 73. That makes no sense to me that we are not understanding that we are putting young people at jeopardy for not reaching whatever their full potential may be by ignoring the cost of this.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Tammy.
No, go ahead. I can't see you. I'm sorry. I just
No,
because
I
I'm
was gonna
looking up.
say, there's a lot of components to this. You have some kids who are cost maybe $400,000 that makes this number get so skewed. You have some because they have acute care, and one cost for a child can be $407,000. But on the other side, you have people complaining about special ed because a lot of these school districts, like you said, they're paying up to four and a half times, and a lot of districts, there's a lot of kids between special ed and up to 4.5 times, what's causing these districts to spend so much money on special education. The city of Hartford spends 35% of its budget on special education. So there's a larger issue that we have to tackle. We're not going to be able to tackle it right here, but thanks for your information around excess cost. That's not saying
Just
a
a
small
small part.
piece of our
Yeah.
part, but that's a real outlier. We have some issues within the 4.5 times cost per district that we have to.
Correct.
That's a large.
And
And
you
I
know,
don't think, and I just want to say, this is not an SDE issue. This is
Right.
us to make a decision. This is not, appreciate the information, but we have to make a decision based on the total ramifications of us not dealing with special education.
Right.
right.
Kim,
And
you
Rep.
wanted-
Belinsky, I want to give Rep. Belinsky, make sure that he has the chance to ask his question on special education.
We do have information coming up on ODRD, the Office of Dyslexia and the budget. So that is in there. So unless you have we're going to get there, Representative, because trust me, we did put the information in the packet.
Well, why don't we tackle that now? Because again, we got like 15 minutes, and I got some other questions that we don't want to deal with. So why if we
Okay.
can touch the dyslexia issue right now? That would
And
leave
I will have 2 other questions, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
My
All right,
questions
so
have been answered by the commissioners, so I appreciate knowing that it's in process and very much look forward to addressing it because it's going to come up and it's going to require an appropriation if we don't figure it out. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you. And so I'll skip
Thank you.
over to other pieces of information here that you've asked us for in the budget for special ed. And we also outlined as we were asked to share all the legislative directed funds. As you can see, we have a good number of them in our budget. So you've got that. We'd asked for information in before and after school programs. So I'll skip to that, but let me get over to, let's see, Laura may have pulled that up on the Office of Dyslexia and Reading Disabilities. And Representative, you mentioned what we laid out for you, because I think it needs to be clear what funding we actually received for the office. And so you'll see under personal services in 2023, and these are what we utilized, what was budgeted and utilized to staff the office. Legislation was very clear in terms of the numbers of people that needed to be in that office with a chief. And I added to that number because I recognized the volume and the amount of work that needed to be done in connection with special education. So I added, beyond what the legislature put in legislation, I added another staff member to that. Right, so we've outlined what was spending for personal services. That's there. Jessica, anything quickly you want to say about that?
Just for fiscal year 23, it was a partial staff as somebody came on board. Fiscal year 24, I believe, was 5 staff members. Fiscal year 25 were 4 staff members. And then there's a transition as there was an appropriation made specifically for ODRD in fiscal year 26, and then the staff transitioned along to with that funding to the new SID. So it looks a little bit weird because the funding goes away, but the staff transitioned with that funding.
Does that help, Representative, in terms of what was there for the office and the staffing and the people? And as I said, and I'm reiterating because that doesn't get out in the world, that I added to that staffing using separate money that was not appropriated for that purpose because of the importance of the work that needed to get done in that office.
I very much appreciate the explanation. I remain frustrated by the fact that we have nothing to show for it.
Well, let's address that though, Representative. We had this conversation before in your package. Let me just finish this and then I'll go to that because I think there needs to be clarity around that particular issue that there's nothing to show for it. Let me also go back and say on this chart, not only did I share with you what we got from the state, but we shared with you what I invested in this dyslexia work, even before there was an office. Oh, Laura, you moved that up. Okay. In that you'll see $1.8 million that was invested from our ESSER COVID funds for dyslexia for reading tutoring. We did that, so $1.8 million we did. We also invested a federal IDEA dollars to the tune of $1 million for the work to be done in that office. So I just wanted to be clear that we invested in the work of the office outside of the state resources that were placed in that office. So
Yes.
let's be clear on that.
Yes,
This deck,
I saw that in the prior breakdown, that federal those federal line items. Thank you.
yeah.
Um,
So
you know,
to the actual work representative, I mean, and I'll go, maybe you can take a look at I don't know what appendix this is. I think it was appendix, Laura, help me here. What appendix are we looking at? Appendix 8. No, I'm sorry. Appendix 14, representative, in your packet, and it's this PowerPoint deck that we pulled up here for you that goes through the work that's been happening in that office, what has been accomplished to date, and the work that we still need to work on. I know there's a lot of conversation about the audit that needs to be done, which we're working on right now, that may require some external capacity and resources. When we look to other states that has actually done this work, they've put in, one state to the tune of $4 million to get external capacity, because this is really complex work that needs to be done. And so we're now looking to see what external capacity we can have to support that, the time frame on it, and to be very transparent around the work. So I just want to be clear about the office was staffed. I added to staff in there with a lot of work to be done. The staff that is in there is really doing good work. And we're trying to make sure now we have some external capacity to help to support the work. But I encourage you to please take a look at that deck, at the work that we've done, because to say that nothing has been accomplished is inaccurate and does not represent the work of the staff that's been working very hard since they've been in that office. And we're working to staff up because we've lost people in that office. But I just really want that to be transparent in that space. And so I'd be more than happy, again, Representative, I met with you before, to meet with you again, to give you, we'll talk about this work that is happening there. But I really wanted everyone to understand what's truly accurate and what is put out into the world that in some cases is not accurate and does not reflect the work of the hard work that folks are doing in that office.
Thank you, Commissioner. I look forward. We'll talk about this later. Right now, I want to concede the floor to Senator Austin, because I don't know her questions, but I'm sure that they're very germane to our topic. Thank you.
Hey, Senator Austin, remind you, we have about 10 minutes, and we still have a couple.
I just want to put three questions on that I would like to get an answer. I was looking at the Teach CT, and I'm just trying to figure out, based on the fact that we're trying to do so much recruitment, and you had a long-term partnership with Teach CT, why we're not any longer considering operating with Teach CT. It came as a surprise this year. So if you could get that, I'd like to also understand, we passed a bill that required SDE to create a pilot program in priority school districts on mental and behavioral health awareness, and appropriated $3.6 million for 26 and 27. I am curious on where we are with that, and there are some online tools that we have seen come through our process, and I just want to know where we are with it. And lastly, and I don't have a question on the dyslexia office. I think that I want to see us put some money in the dyslexia office for their OE. That's not really a question. That's just something I'd like to see. My last question is about the charter schools, and we have 5 charter schools that you have approved, or your board, the board of,
Yeah.
can you give us the price on what it would be for the 5 schools and where we stand on the paraprofessionals for the charter schools for the healthcare that was out there? But I'd like to know the cost of them, just a regular, normal, every year. We ask the question, Representative Walker and I always ask the question, how much would it cost for the Proud Academy, for example, and whatever else we have out there that is not yet approved?
Yeah.
Thank you.
So thank you, Senator. We'll get you that information. There are 5 schools with initial certificates. But again, we wait for legislative appropriation before they become a school to move
Yeah, I
forward.
just want to know what the price is. That's
Yeah,
all.
so we'll provide that information.
Thank you.
Before we go on real quickly, Kathy, you said we put in $3.6 million for pilot programs for mental health services in our
That
schools.
was in a bill that passed last year on a pilot program, HB 7157, section 51.
Okay, did we start that, Commissioner?
That I have to check to see, is that the trauma and behavioral health bill? I will have to
I
check
think
to see
so.
which one that. The
I think-
trauma and behavioral health was $500,000 is what I have for that one that we're
Yeah.
working to get out.
Okay.
Brian, that's what I'm thinking about.
I'm not quite sure. I just want to know because that's a sizable
Yeah.
amount of money. I was just wondering where it was coming from. Go ahead. Can we move on, Tammy? You want?
Thank you.
Senator, if I could just get one more thing in there. Thank you very much. Senator Austin's questions definitely interest me. She brought up the subject of Teach CT. You know, I know that they are a public-private partnership with between SDE and another entity. As we consider them going forward, I'd love to see just exactly what the public part of that partnership is and where it falls in the budget, because we know that they're facing $1 million cut and they're making a lot of very justifiable noise about needing more money. I just want to see, you know, what their OE is, you know, and how they operate in this partnership. Thank you.
Thank you. We will share that information with you, Representative. There's not a line item for them. That was resource that we've always utilized, including federal COVID funds to support and taken money from some of our other line items to help to support that. And so we're still committed to trying to do that. However, we'll get you that information. But they did not have a separate line item for support.
Commissioner, so at this time, because we're running out of time, and Tony has waited. I know that, and I was going to call on you, Representative. I promise I didn't forget. But I did want to say, because we're so close, I do think it would be better for us to find another time to meet, because we didn't go through all the answers for the questions that we already asked. And now we're asking more questions that need to be added to that list.
Right.
So I think that that would be fair for you all, because you have worked on really hard with providing this to us, and also for us as well. But Rep Walker, you did a great job. I know you wanted to jump in there. You're on mute. You're on mute.
I just want to jump in real quickly.
Okay.
Just two things. One,
Okay.
Teach CT, if I'm not mistaken, is going to be part of the various grants, because it is somebody who we are giving money to. So part of their reduction may be in the reduction in all the various items that legislators are supporting. Just saying that, so we have to understand the realities of the other part that we are talking about. And secondly, I'm listening to everybody, and I want to remind everybody, or no, I don't need to remind, but State Department of Ed is our agency, and they are doing the best they can. I was talking with them the other day because I was trying to get some information about something, and I don't think you guys realize how many bills you put in SDE that they have to write testimony for and support, along with all of the documents that you give them right now. And because you don't like what they're saying, you then get harsh in your conversation. I've never gotten into these things with people, but it really was reflective. Nobody's saying thank you. Kathy did say thank you, but nobody's really said thank you to them for what they're doing and the amount of work and effort that they're putting into this. to give us the information that is our information. When we were talking about the number of kids in the schools and where we were, people were getting angry, but it wasn't instead saying, okay, that's the information. We have to make those decisions. So I don't want us to continually beat on the agencies for giving us the information that we know and we don't like it, but that's okay. We don't have to like it, but we also have to be respectful of the agency. That's all I ask.
Absolutely. Thank you for that.
Tammy, go ahead. You have a question. I'll just say next time we meet, no questions about breakfast. Okay, no questions about
That took
breakfast.
30 minutes.
Get those questions out before you come before we meet again, because there's some other questions that definitely have to be addressed. Tammy, you had a question or
No, my
Um,
my comment was simply we're going to need to reschedule because we have OEC at noon and we have 1 minute left and we
Yeah.
didn't get to go through all this material.
This-
And this was some rich material. I mean,
Yes, it is.
I
And
really
will say,
appreciate it.
on behalf of Tony Walker, SDE, thank you for getting us this information. I know you have you're short staff, but you always provide the answers to the questions that we ask when we have ahead of time. But please talk about next time. I asked about the reduction in $9 million in special education. I need a little more information about that. With all this conversation about we need more money for special education, I don't know how we got that reduction, and the explanation of why the magnet schools don't need $12 million. I don't know. I don't even know if you can give me an explanation, because I know you can't. I know you didn't put this in your budget, but that's something that I'm really concerned about. And also, can you tell me the difference? And I should know this, between your expansion of your apprenticeship programs and the cost to pay for student teachers. I need a healthy understanding, because the cost to pay for student teaching was an extremely high number, but yet you have an apprenticeship program that you're expanding, and the number is much lower than I anticipated. And in other questions, I will reach out to you specifically and ask you about some other things. But when we get together again, please, no questions about breakfast. We know we got an issue on that, because I'm not even comfortable. I just learned more information now that makes me even more confused, because these extra dollars are only going to certain school districts. It's just a whole other stuff there. But that's all I have for right now. Tony, Tony or Tammy, do you have any other questions, comments that you need?
So may I just for close out?
Sure.
Thank you so much. And I know I don't want to take up my colleagues, OEC right behind you. But I want to take this time to thank my team. Because, as of yesterday, we've reviewed 40, that's 40, education-related proposals. We've provided testimony on 34 of them across 8 committees, including education. That is the volume of what it is that we're working with. Pertaining to conversations today, there's a bill that we believe is going to be duplicative of excess costs that we're testifying on and clarifying. A lot of different grants being asked for and a lot of different committees for the agency. And so I am asking folks to really take a look strategically at whether these are impacting positively our education system. I know that there's challenge on this end, but it's not just challenge for the agency, but it's also for our districts. And if we're really focused on what matters and results, I'm asking us to take a look at that. So I want to thank them for the work, but I appreciate, we want you to have as much information so you can make informed decisions. And that's what we're committed to making sure you have. So I thank you very much. And we'll work with some other times that we can finish up the information that we have and add to it some of the other questions that you've asked. So thank you for that opportunity.
Thank you, Commissioner, and thank you, the team. And I really do appreciate all of this information. As I said, it's very rich. It's a lot to absorb, and we could probably talk for a whole day. But we will find a time to get ourselves scheduled again. And we appreciate you.
right.
So thank you. Have a good rest of the day.
Thank you.
And take care. And we will see OEC. I see them coming in. So, okay. Hey, Jen.
Good afternoon, Elena
Good
Truitt,
afternoon.
Interim Commissioner. How are you?
Hello. How are you?
Doing well, thank you.
Good. Welcome. Thank you so much for meeting with us today. And what we did before, and I'm sure this will be very similar, there will be a lot of questions. So what we're going to do is ask you to go ahead and kick off, and then we will ask questions accordingly. And hopefully be able to, this hour will go quickly.
Sure.
They get a whole hour?
They get a whole hour.
They don't need that
Yes.
time. Claim your time, SDE.
Let's see
Well,
how those, let's see, Senator.
we shall see, we shall see. So, perfect. Thank you very much for this opportunity to answer questions and to share some additional information. I have members of the OEC team here, and so I'm going to share my screen and first start off with an overview, just a little grounding information about Early Start Connecticut, because there are multiple questions that relate to our state-funded childcare funding stream. So I will start with that, and then afterwards can share the doc and work through the specific questions that this committee asked. All right. So hopefully you're seeing my slide about what is Early Start Connecticut. So Early Start launched in July of 2025. And it's built upon a really long history of our state-funded childcare work, including our school readiness grants and child daycare contracts, along with the state Head Start supplemental grants. So what Early Start is combining these three funding streams into one that we now call Early Start Connecticut. So when we talk about our state-funded childcare program, Early Start Connecticut, it comes with this rich history and work that has been involved with these three funding streams. So stopping there. And Maggie, would you like to share the document, or I can? Great, thank you. So we can walk through the questions here with some of the information, and you can obviously stop me at any time with any questions. So the first question was around providing a description of Waterford Upstart. So Waterford Upstart is an app-based program that's used primarily in the home, but can be used in programs as well. And it's used to prepare preschool-age children for kindergarten. The company is based in Utah and provides support through calls, texts, emails, and postcards. This is the first time that the Office of Early Childhood is provided this funding for Waterford Upstart. And this is one of the various grants. The second question is around the Early Childhood Education Endowment and the plans for the $36 million that can be spent this year from the endowment dollars. So the Office of Early Childhood, the commissioner is one member of a tri-chair approach with a member of the House, Representative Farrar, and a member of the Senate, Senator Marr, who serves as tri-chairs for the Endowment Advisory Board, which we work very closely with to provide guidance and oversight to ensure that the endowment funds are used in the appropriate way. The Office of the Treasurer is a partner in this work to administer and support the advisory board and also the investments of the funds. So below, if you go down a little bit, Maggie, please, you'll see our proposed spend plan that was shared with the endowment advisory body. So what you'll see is the September proposed expenses and then an updated column for January. And the endowment dollars are really, the vast majority are going towards the new 1,000 Early Start spaces, rate increases for the Early Start providers, as well as some stabilization grants. So when we think about the endowment and the infusion of those dollars into our system, really looking to promote sustainability and strengthening of our early childhood system for expansion and growth. Number 3 is around the expenditures for TRISHARE. So through January, can see that the childcare funds were approximately $63,000 in expenditures, along with the salary and administration for the program, which was a little bit over $100,000. Moving on. You all asked for a breakdown of the number of children served by Care for Kids over the past 5 fiscal years. So from 2020 through 2025, in the last column here, you can see the significant increase in the number of children served through Care for Kids, amounting to about 8,000 more children served during this 5-year time frame. One thing that our agency does and wants to continue to do more is to use data as a way in which to assist with our planning and our allocation of funding. And so we look to childcare deserts as one way in which to target funding through our latest request for applications for early start spaces, for example. The way in which we define or identify childcare deserts is based upon a methodology by a national center called the Center for American Progress. So basically, you calculate the supply or the number of licensed providers and spaces in a given area and compare that to the demand. So how many children and families live in that area? We're able to identify childcare deserts down to the neighborhood level, assuming, right, because we want to know what's occurring in the neighborhood for that family. And so that is how we identify childcare deserts, and we provided a map as you go down to see in red where the primary childcare deserts exist across our state. And so you'll see Eastern, Western Connecticut, Southeastern as well. Thank you, Maggie. So an update on Early Start Connecticut, right? Our state-funded child care program. Provided information on the expansion that we've seen and the dollars that have gone towards this from July of 25 and then in comparison to January of 26, right? We released a request for applications and we have grown this program through the use of endowment dollars and our general fund dollars. Continuing on. A question was asked regarding curriculum for early care and education providers, or what curriculum early care and education providers use within their programs. So providers have a choice of the curriculum that they can use with the children that they serve. What the Office of Early Childhood has done and provides a lot of training and support around is the early learning and development standards. So this really talks to what young children from birth to age 5 should know and be able to do. And we provide a lot of materials, support, coaching, training out in the field for providers to understand these standards and be able to align their curriculum in what they're working on with children to be able to meet those standards. Next is around a question of how much would it cost to fully fund childcare slots or programs. Just recently, just the last couple of months, we were awarded the preschool development grant. And through that work, we're working with a national organization called the Prenatal to 5 Fiscal Strategies. We are working with them to help us identify a rate setting that really speaks to what does it truly cost to provide care and high quality care for children. So working with them, we'll be able to establish this rate that we will then continuously work towards in incremental steps in order to meet that rate and be able to pay at the cost of what it actually is to care for children and families. And that relates to both Care for Kids and our state-funded programs. Similar, here are some numbers around what we've seen for expansion with our early care and education programs and spaces. And so here you'll see, because we tracked back to 2023 when school readiness and child daycare were still separate programs. And then in January, what those numbers look like. So this aligns to the numbers that were shared previously around showing the expansion for infants and toddlers, preschool, school age, as well as our state Head Start programs. Question regarding Nurturing Families Network and the change to define that as the home visiting program. So this change was actually made back in 2021, where it was enacted in a public act. It's really about it was made this change to modernize the language and shift to a more broader systemic approach to home visiting and have all the home visiting models reflected under the language of Connecticut's home visiting system.
No, excuse me, Commissioner.
Yes.
I just want everybody to know that HDO and SDO are putting out that we're transferring from any in-person to online, and so they are going or remote work. And while this is remote already, our staff is going to be moving to a remote only, and some of them are here in the building. So just sort of want everybody to know that that's what's going on here now. Thank you. Sorry about that, Commissioner.
No, absolutely. Thank you. Continuing on, I think we can go to our accounts. So provided information on each of the accounts within our agency's budget and a description of it, along with metrics that we track in each of these budget account areas. And so there's several pages of this, but we wanted to provide all the information for you so you can see the areas in which we budget and do our work. In addition, we provided a breakout of OE or operational expenses here that are listed and the costs and expenses associated with that. And the last set of questions is really about diving into BERT to 3. So an explanation around the difference between the BERT to 3 non-tiered rates and tiered rates and what that means. So currently, the Office of Early Childhood, working with DSS, we administer a 2-tiered rate approach for reimbursing BERT to 3 programs under a fee-for-service delivery model. So the 2 tiers currently are professional and paraprofessional. So we provided some examples of the costs associated with each of these kind of services or activities, if you will. So for example, to develop an IFSP, which is an individualized family service plan, they're able to bill $120 per hour. For the services, that is where the tiered rates come in. For currently for a professional, it's $120, and for a paraprofessional, it is at $84 dollars. In addition to the reimbursable or the fee, we also provide general administrative payments, or what are known as GAP payments. So this is for children that are receiving less than 9 hours of service per month. Programs are able to bill for these GAP payments. In addition, we want to make sure that programs have the ability to provide services and supports in multiple languages. And so interpretation reimbursement is also an allowable cost associated with supporting programs, as well as distance payments for the deaf and hard of hearing programs. So the governor's budget moves or proposes to move to implementation of a 5-tiered rate model. So here you'll see that there are 3 levels for professionals and 2 levels for paraprofessionals. And the graph here shows the proposed new rates associated with these services and levels. And you'll see that at each level, there is a proposed increase in the rates associated with each of those pieces. The governor's budget proposes to cover the costs of the 5-tiered rates. And here you'll see the cost to the OEC budget, a little over $6 million, as well as for the DSS for the Medicaid side, which is about $4.5 million. We wanted to also say that if the state were to stay with the 2-tiered rate structure with the increased rates, the cost would be what's shown here for FY27, which is about $10.7 million for OEC, and the DSS side a little over $8 million to implement and stay at the 2-tiered rate. So the question around what percentage of current providers fall within or would fall within these new tiered rates. So the agency is currently working to finalize what would define each of those tiers and how staff could move throughout those tiers. And we're working in partnership with DSS and others to determine that. But there are several trainings and credentials that are currently available that are offered for no cost, no direct cost to the program. Those include a credential called the Early Intervention Specialist credential that has been in place since 2004. It's had a different name, and other trainings and offerings such as family mentoring and coaching or infant mental health efforts. Okay, so as we go towards this graph, the question is really about asking the trend of direct service hours. And so you'll see at the bottom the increase in the number of direct service hours or demand for the birth to 3 services, and the increase of those percentages and those hours. And then going more specifically into the autism specific questions and hours. Here you'll see the trend with the ASD diagnosis only and others. And so, you know, part of what Bird to 3 does so well is that we have a primary service provider approach to teaming. And so there is a whole team wrapped around families and children as they are supported through the Birth to 3 early intervention process with a very supportive coaching approach in their natural environments. And so these hours are aligned with best practices and in line with federal regulations, along with some of the more recent research showing that more hours doesn't necessarily produce improved outcomes. I think it's also important to note that OEC does not dictate nor cap the number of hours that children and families can receive for services that is dictated through their IFSP or their plan that is created. I think, Maggie, we can pretty much skip to the last question, or go to the last question, I should say.
Absolutely. Lots to read. There we go. We're at the last question.
Okay. This is getting a little bit more into the specifics around the transition process from birth to 3 to preschool special education at the age of 3. There is a process and a strong partnership between the OEC and State Department of Education to assist families in this transition. And it must be completed no less than 90 days before the child's 3rd birthday. And it includes Birth to 3 programs notifying the school district that the child will soon turn 3 and may need an evaluation for special education. It includes a transition conference, evaluation for Part B eligibility, and the creation of an IEP or individualized education plan if eligible. For families and children who do not qualify for Part B, there are additional supportive and wraparound services and supports, including families are notified by the school district. Birth to 3 works very closely to refer families to additional community-based programs and supports or private services if they so desire. It's really driven by the needs and wants of the family. And in addition, there's a lot of support around transition planning between Birth to 3 and the school district as well.
And I'll just add that the OEC and SDE, they do a roadshow, they call it, and go around the state to provide information about, you know, the transition from Birth to 3 to the public schools. They actually presented at the Early Childhood Connection Zoom meeting yesterday with about 200 people. It's a great demonstration, and it's a wonderful partnership that we have between OEC and SDE. Should I stop sharing?
Thank you, Maggie. Yeah, I think we're all done sharing.
Great.
And could I just point out, looking at that final piece, and thank you so much, Commissioner, that was fantastic that we got to go through everything, and I'm sure we have a lot of questions. I know there's this 20% cut in the budget for so many of the different grants and programs under SDE, but when I look under your Birth to 3 will refer to other supports. One of those supports is local family resource centers. So I just want to pull in the importance of those family resource centers. You know, I'm very personally aware of the kind of work that they do, and it's very, very inexpensive for what you get, you know, the big bang for the buck. And to see it as an actual resource area, and that we would even have a consideration of a 20% cut to it, and they have lean budgets anyway. Just wanted to kind of note that. But thank you so much. Let's see, I can't really see. Senator McCoy, are you on? Can't see him.
Yes, I am.
Okay. Do you have any questions, or does anyone have any questions? Get started.
No, not at this point. You guys do a good job. I'm just, like
you
I
are.
asked in the meeting, a healthy balance between early childhood education and I'm concerned about that, and early child education, and providing birth to 3 for services. Just to make sure we have a healthy balance in that area. That's all.
And speaking of that, the birth to 3 is one of the areas I definitely want to talk about a little bit more, because I received so many email around the tiers, the changing of the tiers, and I see the cost is significant, but I think there could be a significant cost in doing that as well in a different way that may not be just monetary in that way. But so that's one area that I definitely like to spend more time. But before doing so, let me ask Representative Leeper, do you have any questions? Good morning, that you would like?
Good morning, Madam Chair. Thank you. Thank you, OAC, for all of this additional information. I was going to actually ask about birth to 3 also, so I don't want to overstep. I guess I'm a little curious where this proposal came from. Have families reported that they have birth to 3 service providers that are not sufficiently trained? I guess this is a population of providers that are already very credentialed. So I'm just curious, like, where additional credentialing, the demand for that's coming from.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And I think part of this is also, it's about training and about workforce retention to be able to continue, right, having a career ladder and working up that career ladder as well. And so the specialists are well trained, absolutely, in their area. I think what we want to be able to do is make sure that they're trained for babies and young children, and have the training related to the birth to 3 system specifically, right? What does it mean to be a physical therapist coming into the birth to 3 system in people's and families' homes, and how to work and best provide that service coordination? So it's a workforce retention and recruitment approach, along with career ladder and, quality assurance.
I'm just curious around that too, because one of the things I hear is how long it would take to get to that upper tier, and that people who are very experienced, who have been working, that they may not have a credential, but they have way more experience, and then someone could come in and get a credential with less experience and end up being at a higher tier. So I'm just curious about. I think a part of me does not understand the actual need for this, to be honest. And I find it to be, from what I'm hearing, people who are in the area, they're going, why are they doing this? It's going to kind of flatline what I'm able to do, because so few people make that top area, no matter what their experience is. That's the feedback.
Yeah, we've heard some of that as well. Nicole Cassett, Director of Birth to 3, would you like to add in some additional detail here?
Sure. Thank you, Commissioner Trueworthy. I think part of it is really, and these are great questions, and we're hearing the feedback, and that's part of where we're working with the field and trying to hear some feedback and other pieces to make this process streamlined. As part of revising our infant toddler family specialist credential, which has been in place since 2004, and moving into what it is now called the EIS credential, we worked with the field and some practitioners out in the field on the process to ensure that the process, in terms of sitting for the exam, moving through those observations, were efficient and made sense for both the OEC, but also in practice and what that could look like. I think historically, some of this has been utilized to move paraprofessionals into the professional realm. So there was this career ladder and jump and movement up. But what we found was our professionals didn't have that same sort of movement. In 2021, we worked, or actually prior to that, I believe it was in 2020, we obtained a grant, and we called that our Rainbow Grant, our Reliable, Accountable, Integrated Network Building Our Workforce. And that really focused on how do we recruit staff, but also retain staff. As part of that grant, we looked at all of the trainings that we had and how can we support folks through this ladder. As Commissioner Truworthy noted, that you can come out of grad school and be a phenomenal physical therapist or speech and language pathologist or whichever professional realm that individual is in, but you may have only had one term, maybe one class on peds. So what does that look like in early intervention? And early intervention is a little bit different than that medical model as well. So we're really trying to incentivize good evidence-based practices in early intervention. Additionally, being able to supplement and pay folks at a higher billable rate as they're growing within our field. So that's hitting to that retention piece as well.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
Pleasure.
Rep Walker?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, everybody, for your information. I'm not muted, am I?
No, you're
okay.
okay.
I can never tell because I go back. Anyhow, I just have a couple questions. So I know that we started trying to help develop some of our childcare programs out there, and we set up grants and things to help to develop their agencies and also for training and things like that. How is that going right now, and how many programs have we been able to help in getting them a little bit more secure as a business? And how many? I also know that there have been some problems with some of the contracts and things, so I wanted to know. I wanted to know where we were with that. Thank you.
Sure. So yes, definitely coming through COVID and coming out of COVID, really understanding the importance of a strong business, right, for our childcare industry. And people go into the profession many times loving children, right, and families, but they're running a business, whether it's a small family childcare up to a very large nonprofit for profit. And so those business practices are key. So we have been partnering with the Women's Business Development Council as our primary support to this work, and they offer 3 different types of grants, as well as free one-on-one business consultation and business classes and courses across the state for any childcare provider, whether they're state funded or private funding. They are able to access these services and supports. The feedback has been that they are well received. We had, times in which it was different, right? For a provider to have to share kind of their business aspect of their side of their work. But really, people are starting to see the importance of that with having a strong business to be able to weather changes, right, out in the field that are occurring, or other factors that might be influencing that. So we still, through both of the PDG grant and the endowment, are increasing the business supports that are available.
All right. Okay. So you still have resources to continue the program in the next year, correct? Okay. And if you can just tell us how many, you can send it to us. I'd like to know how many programs have we elevated and educated. And I bet you the things that you're going through with teaching them about business are very helpful for a lot of us when we are working with small businesses in our communities and understanding how do we help support them, because I'm sure a lot of them don't understand what a 990 is and about registering with the Secretary of State and all these basic things that people of larger size that aren't community or grassroots based would know about. And I think we owe it to small businesses to provide that information and in a multiple areas. And childcare is one that we know is a big employer for community-based programs. So that's why any information that you learned on this would be very helpful for us. And also how many you've been able to reach. And then what things we should be looking at to going forward, because they're going to change and things are going to be changing too. So it's important that we become aware of this a lot more and we talk about it amongst ourselves and stuff. So thank you so much. Thank you.
Absolutely.
I have are there any other questions? I have a question around the, I was just curious about the Sparkler app. I remember that coming up a lot last year. And is it a referral source? Are you finding, like, what's the usage and the connection between people using that and moving to asking for birth to 3 or some of those early intervention services?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It definitely is a referral source. It's part of our efforts around Child Find, right? To be able to connect with families who might have concerns about their young child's development. And so Sparkler is an app. It's situated within our whole Help Me Grow system of supports for families and communities, and it's free. The Office of Early Childhood offers it free to any family who wants to download it. And it's wonderful because it not only helps the family complete the ASQ, which is an early screening tool around development, but it provides some red flags where there might be some developmental concerns. And it attaches activities and gives parents and family members ideas for activities, right? Matching socks, right? Singing songs, all of those things that are directly targeted to where a child might need some additional support. And so we are doing some work internally to also make a much stronger connection between Birth to 3 and Sparkler to make sure that that stays solid so that and we're piloting this work as well, where if a family, for example, might be seeking Birth to 3 services, but they might not qualify, right? They are then referred to the Help Me Grow system and to Sparkler to continue that support and get referrals and connections to community-based. I mean, our desire, right? Our vision is that families have what they need for when they have questions about their young child, right, and their development. And so also the supports through 211 Child Development Info Line, where they can call and ask these questions and talk it through with a trained case manager is a wonderful resource as well.
Thank you. I'm looking to see if there are any other questions.
And those Sparkler numbers continue to go up and up and up.
Do they?
For families that are engaging and using Sparkler, which is great. Fantastic.
Which is good to know. I remember there was some discussion around that. So that's really good to know those numbers are still going up.
It's also in statute that it passed a couple of years ago, where if a child's deemed not eligible for preschool public special ed, that at the 6-month mark, I think in the 12-month mark, parents are supposed to be connected with Sparkler again, just to, sometimes those children 6 months later are found to be eligible for.
Right.
So,
right. Absolutely. Yeah.
Those families. So
that makes sense. Makes sense. Thank you.
Welcome.
Any other questions? Jen?
Sorry, one other question on Birth to 3. Thank you so much. Do any other states have a tiered system like this?
Yeah, Nicole, I'll hand that over to you. You might have more.
Sure. States pay for early intervention in many different ways. There are states that have approaches similar to this. There are some states that will pay by discipline. There are some states that aren't a fee for service and they're still in that bundled rate. So you will receive a dollar amount per child. So it's hard to say apples to apples, but yes, there are states that do implement this. And are states that are currently seeking to do something similar for their early intervention system. We were one of many states that did a rate study cost analysis around 2023, and many states are starting to move and start to see some of those rates align with some of the results in their respective areas.
The rate study, though, didn't propose this tiered approach, did it? I thought it was more looking at where our rate would be if it sort of had kept pace.
There were two options in the rate study, and this was one that was proposed as part of that rate study cost analysis.
What was the other one?
Just staying at the regular 2 tiers.
So, oh, just
right now.
I just wonder if there are other options. Like, I don't know. This tiered one, I don't know. I don't personally, I don't love it. So I'm hearing so much about it and I get it. So I'm just wondering what else could be out there that, that you get credentialed, you get recognized for it, you understand there's some variation, but kind of like it was before, the paras, I wonder why to move away from that. I guess that's what I want to do.
Can I say one last thing?
Yes, yes.
And I apologize in advance if this is like overly frank, but I wonder if was there a problem we were trying to solve on the credential side? Because it doesn't seem like that was feedback families were coming forward with. And then I worry that it's just really expensive, right? To increase everybody's rate to where they in theory should be. And this is sort of like a process to manage our state budget, but not necessarily because there was a service delivery issue. And you don't have to respond to that. That's just sort of what I'm hearing and sort of my perception. But thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. And I'll stop asking questions now.
No, that's fine. I think we're on the same page there. Are there any other questions? Wow, well, I guess you are going to get your time back. You all did an amazing job going through and not getting a lot of questions from this crew. But thank you so much. This was wonderful feedback, very comprehensive, and we know how to reach you should we have any additional questions. But
Absolutely.
are
And
you
we'll
good?
follow up with some of that data that was asked of us. And thank you. Thank you for your partnership.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
That would be helpful. Thank you. Appreciate that part.
Okay. Take care.
Have a good rest of the day. Take care.
Enjoy your day.
Thank you.
So that gives us 15 minutes
Time
before
to
our
get
next.
lunch.
Yeah, you can go grab your lunch real quick.
Yep.
The next one is at 1 to 1:30. We have CTEX, and then we have 1:30 to 2, and then we'll be done. Oh, did everybody just run real fast to get their lunches? Am I
think
just
so.
talking, Jen? I think I'm just talking to you.
It's me and you now. But I'll go take my lunch too, and I hope you do
Okay,
as
take
well.
your lunch. See you soon.
We'll see everybody
Okay.
back in 15 minutes.
15. Thank
Hello.
Hi there. Members should be trickling back in shortly.
We're ready whenever.
Good afternoon. We finished a little early with our last presentation, so they took a quick lunch. So they'll
No worries.
they'll be
No
coming
worries.
back. Hope you're doing well.
Yes, thank you.
Good.
Hi, Tammy.
Hi, Kathy.
How are you?
Okay. Doing okay. I said people hope they remember to come back on.
I think you should start, and people will start coming back on. But I'm going to mute myself. I'm in my car now.
Okay.
So I
Okay.
will be
Be
paying
listening in.
attention that way. Yeah. Thank
Great.
you.
You're welcome. All right. Oh, there's Senator McCrory. Okay. Senator McCrory, I think people are still finishing up and maybe they'll just start popping on, but we're going to go ahead and get started.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. I'll give you the floor. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you so much,
Afternoon.
Representative, and happy Tuesday, snowy Tuesday to everyone.
Yes.
I'm Dr. Alice Pritchard, Executive Director of CTEX, and I have with me here my CFO, Gennaro DeAngelis, our Fiscal Administrative Manager, Keisha Richardson, and our Legislative Director, Emmett Riley. So we're all
Great.
here,
Thank you.
and we know you've had a copy of our responses to your initial questions, so just available for any additional questions, follow-up detail that you'd like to ask. And if we don't know it today, we'll obviously bring it back to you.
Thank you so much. One thing that's super helpful is if you don't mind just kind of going through the
sure.
answers in the presentation. I don't know if you have something, if you'd like to.
I do. I don't have
have a
anything
screen.
prepared, but I can just run through kind of generally what your questions were and some of the
Sure.
answers if you like. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
So there were a number of questions that were raised about our role at CTEX in the state's manufacturing pipeline. I know this was Senator Austin's question, I believe. And so we indicated that there are, first of all, we're very involved, particularly with Electric Boat and the Eastern Workforce Investment Board. We have 5 of our technical high schools, Grosso and Groton, Cheney and Manchester, Wyndham Tech in Willimantic, Norwich Tech in Norwich, and Eli Whitney Tech in Hamden, all of whom are involved in that work. And we provided you with a chart that showed which of the programs are feeding the pipeline. And it is not just manufacturing students. We also have automotive collision and automotive technology students, carpentry, diesel, electrical, HVAC, and welding and metal fabrication students who are engaged in those programs at those various locations. So we are, as they are moving west, as Electric Boat in particular is moving west to try to identify additional potential employees, we're trying to move with them. And so we have, we're slated to begin a program at Cheney Tech in Manchester in welding with them this summer or this fall. So as they need more, we will certainly be there. I had the opportunity just this past week to be at Wyndham Tech, where they hired 14 of our 16 students who interviewed with them. And that's been happening at multiple schools, not just at CTEX, but across the state. So they're actively hiring now. Last year, we had 70 of their hires came from the CTEX schools. So very, very involved in that work. So those were kind of the questions on the manufacturing side. There were a number of questions related to how the budget will impact our special education work and spending. So the governor's budget did put in additional resources in our personnel line to allow us to begin hiring our own paraeducators for our classrooms, estimated about 25 to 35 with the resources identified in the budget. That'll allow us to better meet the IEP needs as identified by our students. Right now, we fully meet this need for paraeducators through a third-party contract with CREC. We have identified about 80 to 90 paraeducators that we could use in the classroom, and they've been able to hire about 2/3 of that. And so the balance of that is covered by substitutes and other staff and to make sure we're meeting the needs. But this will allow us to start to stabilize that workforce and integrate them into the work we do every day in the school and not be as dependent on a third-party contract. And there's also, so there are both PS dollars to start that new workforce, but also recognition that we continue to run a budget deficit. So we're getting better, but we still are running a deficiency. And so $5 million is added to the budget to help with both the special ed resources that are needed to pay for that contract with CREC, and also potentially our increasing demands on our utility side for those expenses, which being a cold winter, we're expecting bigger bills than we had last winter, for instance. So there was a question as well about whether this increase in the personnel, hiring our own workforce, will allow us to decrease the amount of money we spend with a third-party contract. We do believe over time it will, but not initially. As we're experiencing a gap in between what CREC can hire and what our students are identifying as need, we think there'll probably be at least a little while, a year or two perhaps, where we're going to need to do a little bit of both. And so we've kind of planned for that initially in our thinking. But over the long term, we do think we would be able to move away from a third-party contract for paraeducators, but we would continue to have a third-party contract with CREC or others to provide the professional services that they offer, which were asked about as well, which can be it can be occupational or physical therapy, it could be nurses specifically for those students. We believe those services are still best procured in a third-party contract, given their specialization and professional needs. So those were a few questions related to that. Then what we labeled as question 10 was a question about our OE breakouts and our deficiency in that area. So we did give you obviously our OE is just a single line item, but we break it out to track expenditures. And if you had a chance to look at that, you will see we create a number of buckets to try to track that spending. Particularly, you'll see that we're running the deficiency in utilities, that we're running the deficiency in our CREC contract, and that we also have resources dedicated to facilities to teaching and learning to IT. We spend a lot of money on school lunch, unlike other state agencies. We have to feed kids. We have a contract with DESPE to provide our student resource officers. They're very critical members of our team at the school level. That contract is entirely in deficiency at the moment. We haven't paid them anything this year. But
you said, Alice, I'm sorry, that's correct? That's correct, you said?
No, DESPE does the student resource officers.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, yes, I might have misspoke, but yes, we have a contract with the state police to provide that service in our schools, and again, really critical members of our team. So you can see that our spend is more than originally allocated by about $7 million, and that's where we're running at the moment. And I will just say, we have been working, Gennaro's at the 1-year mark. Keisha's been with the agency a number of years. We've been working very hard to establish budgets, which sounds really simple, but is something we have not had in our agency since the separation from SDE 3 years ago. So we are budgeting, we are trying to constrain spending, but still find ourselves in a deficient position on OE, largely because of that special ed contract that we brought on two years ago.
May I ask you, with the
Yes,
SROs, roughly how many are we talking about?
We have 1 to 2 per school. And so with 17 high schools, we have 1 to 2. They are supplemented with, we have buildings and grounds officers who we pay for, who are on our payroll. And they also vary depending on the school circumstances. So a Prince Tech has quite a few more building and grounds officers than a Wyndham Tech, for instance, or a Norwich Tech. But our SROs, we have 1 to 2 in each school. And again, they're vital members of the school community. We think of them as doing community policing. They're not there to act as officers and as they do in their public safety day-to-day, but very important part of our team.
And the ones that are the ground and building officers, is that also under that desk line item?
No, that is in
separate?
our PS. That's in our
PS.
PS budget. And those are members of a union, and we bring those onto the payroll ourselves. Sorry.
Okay.
So can I ask you, you have about $7 million still in deficiency?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
You guys finished with your questions? I have.
Yes. Go ahead.
I'm gonna make sure I hear you. You said you have 1 or 2 officers in each of your high schools?
Yes, Senator, that's correct. And then they're supplemented with building and grounds officers.
No, so there's a difference between a building and grounds officer and a SRO?
Yes, so the SROs are state police who we hire, who DESPE hires and
Right, I get that part, but
employs.
what's the building and ground person?
So then we hire building and grounds officers who do security, who walk the premises, do all that kind of, making sure.
Are they post-certified? Are these post-certified?
They're not post-certified as far as I know, and they do not carry weapons, just the
Okay,
SROs.
all right. That wasn't even my main 2 questions. I have 2 other questions. Back to the expanding adult education program.
Yep.
Now, are we looking to expand the Bristol Tech program from a day program where you have 11th and 12th graders there to a full-time program for career changers and students who might have graduated from high school and want to go back? Is that what you're doing here?
So, Senator, we would do that and more with the resources identified by the governor. So we would absolutely be able to bring on an evening shift at Bristol Tech, which we're excited about. As you just mentioned, we have adult students there during the day now. We'd be able to do a second shift and bring in adult students at night.
Okay.
But we also have 7 of our technical high schools provide we call it adult education, but I feel like it's not the right terminology. We're providing adult training programs at night at 7 of our schools, and Prince is our largest provider of that. So we would also have an opportunity to expand, we believe, with these resources, programming there to help additional adults.
Okay.
And then we also have the 2 aero maintenance programs, one at Brainerd and one at Stratford with Sikorsky.
Right.
where we could take it. Those are also day programs for adults that could be expanded to provide evening programming as well.
So the flight schools are just for adults during the day? They're not for kids?
Correct. Correct.
Okay. All right. So, and my last question is, I'm understanding you already have pairs that you have a contract with, correct? These additional 36 pairs are, I'm assuming that they're in addition to what you already have for pairs. Is that correct?
Correct. So we believe at the beginning, they would be, we're really kind of moving this workforce from a third-party contract onto the state payroll. So we would start with our first, hopefully, group of about 25, but we don't expect, and we expect that we would have, up to the 80 to 90 that we need under contract with CREC.
Okay. So my question, because I know we don't have a lot of, because right here it says that you're looking to hire 36 special education instructors at a cost of $1.1 million. That comes to about $32,000 a person, which comes to about $16 an hour. That's less than what we're paying minimum wage.
Yes, sir.
And I'm assuming that doesn't cover fringe costs also. I don't know how you're going to hire 36 people at that decent amount of money to come into your schools to do special education para work. That's unrealistic.
So let me clarify a few things. Your sentiment, I understand your sentiment exactly. So I think the 25 is probably the more likely number, that we could bring on 25 people, which changes that salary. The fringe is not included. It's included in the state budget, but not in our budget. And so we would probably be more like $25 an hour, which is what they're starting at CREC at the moment as well. So we would want to be market competitive so we can actually hire folks. I think people will be interested in joining kind of a stable state workforce, which I'm sure perceived as. So
okay.
But we have not negotiated that salary. We'll have to negotiate that salary with our teachers union. And to go through a classification process.
Yeah, I'm concerned about when you transfer from a third party to bringing on new state employees, the cost will be much different from working with a third party provider. And now you're looking to move away from that third party provider and take all those people, the bodies, at least the numbers, and bring them on as state employees. That number is going to change.
Yes, I will say that the CREC employees are unionized employees, and they have a pretty good bargaining agreement with CREC, where they do get benefits. They have a pension plan. They have a number of things, and they have a salary scale. And we've looked at that as a model for how we could certainly, at least on the salary side.
I got you. All right, and that $5 million actually is still not enough to get you to do this, and then this adjusted current service guy. It's still not enough to get you whole. Is that correct? Even though
our current deficit is 7, and the governor's proposal is 5 million, which will go a long way to helping us address that deficiency.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. There were a few more questions. Do you want me to run through the last couple, or okay?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Okay, so there's a bit more, and again, Senator McCrory raised some of the adult learner opportunities that we're looking at. We do think we could expand our Bristol Tech model, which doesn't have an evening program at the moment, could take on students at night, and also the 2 Aerotech programs, as I mentioned, and then the 7 schools. Currently, we have about 2,000 students at our 7 adult ed programs at night. We think that's we have a lot more capacity there, and think we could do more training. So the resources would help us to build the case for that and identify how we could do more going forward. So that's how we would spend the adult ed resources. If we had to prioritize, we certainly want to make sure that we're hitting our urban centers. So we would definitely be looking to expand at Prince and Eli Whitney, but also potentially out in Norwich, where we have a strong, again, that connection to electric boat that could be useful. There was a question, number 13, was about how to expand to more students, to expand our day program. So there's a little bit of conversation there as well. As I've mentioned before, we're full to capacity at 11,700 students this year at our 17 high schools. And so we're looking for opportunities to think about potential after-school programming with comprehensive high schools who may have students who would voluntarily like to come to us and be engaged in programming, or that adult population, which we think we could grow substantially. And adult meaning anybody postgraduate from high school. So you could absolutely be 18 and come to our programs. And so there's some conversation there about how that would work. And then just the last question was about how we stay connected to the workforce needs of the state. And I made mention of the fact that we have program advisory committees for each one of our trade areas at each one of our 17 schools. And so there's a lot of industry input. They meet twice a year to hear about curriculum. I can tell you firsthand that we have changed programming based on industry need and industry engagement. And so whether it's an electric boat that's helping us do welding at Cheney Tech, or the construction industry has helped us move to some of our programs in carpentry to building and civil construction so that they can participate in all this great work that's happening with roads and bridges. So we have students out in healthcare sites. We have students in hairdressing and barbering. We have students across the state in electrical. So they're everywhere. Industry is coming in and telling us how to improve. And then we're also sending students out for firsthand experience that then informs what we give them. So I think I talked really quickly, so happy to give you more detail on any of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Yes, go ahead.
Yeah.
Tammy.
Can I ask on what is an extension student?
Those are our evening students who are not in an apprenticeship.
Okay.
So we do provide all of the apprenticeable trades do their trade related instruction with us.
Okay.
And then in addition, we have students who take the same courses side by side with them, but they're not in an apprenticeship, and we call those extension students.
Okay. So do you have you done a waiting list, or do you just know? You just said we're done and you don't click?
On the adult side, we have, to my knowledge, we have not done a wait list. On the high school, we have a very large wait list. So for the high school program, we have a lot. But on the adult ed side, we just are confident that because there's nobody else at our price point, for instance, in the licensed trades, you have to go to a Porter and Chester or one of the other schools. There are a lot of students, I think, who would be interested in the price tag for the training that we could provide at our schools. And then, we have community partners who are looking to us who would like to work with industry to bring particular populations into our schools. And so those are the things we'd be able to explore with this first batch of resources.
Okay. So you don't have a formal waiting list, but you know that you have partnerships that are out there. It would be nice if you kind of gave us an estimation of, if we were able to get additional funding, where could we go? Would it be explaining who the specific schools are and everything would be where that they, like in Bullet Haven or something like that, or Eli Whitney. I don't know, just understanding where we could do that, because I know in New Haven they New Haven Adult Ed and the high schools are like, whenever you have openings, it's like we're there, and they work well. They work. In fact, I know 2 kids that just got jobs in electric boat that went through that. So
that's great. And I should mention, Representative Walker, that the students in our adult programs pay their own way.
Oh, wow.
So they are not, that programming is not paid for out of the state general fund. It is all above and beyond that. So the student is paying, now they're not paying as much again as they would in the those private programs, but they are paying. Our aero maintenance program, for instance, is a 2-year program that costs about $7,000. So students, we believe if we had ways to offset that, either with federal money or with state money, that we would see a lot more students. And again, our intention is not to replicate what happens in a traditional adult ed program like you were in, or at the community colleges, but to provide programming that nobody else is doing, or they're not doing at this price point.
I mean, the thing that I really liked about it was there were welding students, so they got a great jobs, and they were so excited. They said, "Oh, we'll come up to Hartford to thank you." I said, "I had nothing to do with it. I just got to get your name." So just go tell other people to do it. But they were
That's great.
so excited. So I thank you for all you do. And I do believe that it would be beneficial for us to try and get you additional dollars. And I think those additional dollars would really help, especially for after-school programming for high school kids, which we desperately need, would be a wonderful way of trying to expand opportunities for kids and keep them out of trouble during that 3 to 6 time, which is when they get into heavy trouble. So thank you, Alice, for the fact that you stepped up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Susan, I know you got your hand up. I want more. I got another question, but go ahead, Susan. I ask
Oh,
you.
thank you so much. A couple quick questions. First of all, thank you so much for your presentation today. And I just have a question about the Aerotech. Where is it being done? And at what point in time are students able to get into Aerotech?
So we have 2 programs. One is offered at Brainerd Airport in Hartford, and one at Stratford Airport at Sikorsky in Stratford. And so it is only an adult program because the FAA requires you to be over 18 in order to participate in those particular programs that we're offering there. So it's got very small numbers, but we have about 100 students across those 2 programs. It did get better. You all did give us some relief on the qualifications of the instructors. So we have been able to expand a little bit, but we would be able to, with this resource, do an evening shift at both of those locations, we think. And then we are starting to figure out how to build out kind of aviation foundational courses. Bullard Havens is one of the places that we're thinking about this, where you wouldn't get the full program that we get in Aerotech, but you would begin to get some of the foundational courses that would allow you then to transition to those courses. So those are great, and there are industry partnerships waiting for them. I will just share, we just met recently with Pratt & Whitney with some of those students, and they wanted every single one of them. Yes.
Wonderful. I love that. And I just want to say too, Wyndham Airport has a repair service here, and it's one of the best airports in Eastern Connecticut. So that might be a thought.
Oh, that's a great thought.
Yeah. And then the next thing I have a question about, I know some of the tech schools work with the fire department. Willimantic Fire Department works with our tech school here, and we have built a fabulous Eastern Connecticut fire school, which might be another thought in terms of how to expand services for EMT services and training in those areas, because this is something that I know that has been a great opportunity for so many of our students. Is there any remarks?
Criminal justice is one of our fastest growing trade areas. There's a lot of interest among students in this, and the partnership with local fire departments and also with state police and local police departments have been really important to building those programs. So yes, and Wyndham we just had Joe Courtney walk through the other day, and he got to see that program in Wyndham. So it's great. And those kind of partnerships would be great. And they could be part of evening programming as well once we move to more of the coursework.
We've been absolutely thrilled to have our Willimantic Police Department work with Eastern Connecticut State University Social Work Department. The woman who sits on our local Board of Education is a former social worker who helped create the program with Eastern Connecticut State University and Willimantic Police Department. And so we're very pleased and honored that she was able to pull that together. And now they have a social workers that they've hired both for the fire department and for the police department. And we have done a lot of work in that area. And just another quick question on the program advisory committees. Where do you draw the people from on those?
It ranges. So a lot of these are long-term relationships that department heads have, in particular with employers who have hired our students over time. But it could be from chambers of commerce. The workforce investment boards have helped us connect to some of the employers that are on there. But a lot of them are employers who are part of the programming. They're hiring our students in work-based learning, et cetera. But there's always room for more. We're always happy to bring more and more employers to the table. And again, it's pretty low touch to meet twice a year to connect with the schools. So happy to make any particular connections if you all would like.
I would love that. And thank you so much for your work. Thank you so much, Mr. Chair and Madam Chair.
Alice, I just want to be clear. When you're offering to expand programming during the evening, is that for high school age students or is that for our young adults. And when I say young adults, people who have graduated from high school and wanted to go into the career training. Are you doing both, or what? I didn't quite understand that.
Right, I'm sorry. With this initial pot of money, we were only going to do the postgraduate adult program expansion.
Okay.
We would love to talk about the other, but given that it was it's not a small amount of money, it's a great amount of money, and we'll get started with it. But we didn't want to boil the ocean to start, so we were starting with our adult programming. But would very much like to talk about high school programming, and had a chance yesterday to meet with Fran Wabinowitz, which many of you all know, to talk about how we might partner with comprehensive high schools so that they wouldn't have to build out the same level of programming, and instead could think about more Bristol Tech models or more after school programming for the high school age.
I like the Bristol Tech model. I don't think you'll be able to duplicate it all over the state, but the idea of partnering with our traditional high schools and maybe doing an evening program I'm almost looking at doing an evening program for kids between the ages of 16 to 18 or 16 and 19 who are still in high school, and actually getting that experience so they can have something to do once they get out of high school. While they're still in high school, maybe an apprenticeship program where they come to school in the evening, these 16 and 19-year-olds, and get the trade at the same time. I think that
we could explore that as part. I mean, again, this is pretty wide open, and we haven't formalized any plans yet. We'd be happy to look at whether, again, if we're thinking about that programming, whether the 16 and 17-year-old might be able to do some of it as well. We have to. It'll be a funding question that we'll just have to parse out.
Okay, thank you.
Well, thank you so much. If there are no other questions, I know we have one more presentation, but I appreciate it. It's good to hear. I was questioning that Pratt Whitney connection because why not? So it's nice to hear that's something in the works as well. We know how to reach you should we need you for any other questions, but I appreciate your presentation. I think this is such a wonderful opportunity. I love hearing the special education piece is becoming more robust. So have a good rest of the day.
Thank you. Thank you all very much.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Debbie
Good afternoon.
Good to see you all. I know we had some questions from our hearing. I would be happy to launch in with those answers or just jump right into questions that you may have this morning. Any preference?
I think it would be best for you to just go over the questions, and then we can ask anything that is residual, but at least to get those questions answered, please.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. So the first question we had was about the potential impact of the proposed cuts to the Borrow It program, what used to be called the Kinetic Card program. So this is a program that is part of our ecosystem for resource sharing across the public library and other types of libraries in the state. So currently that line is funded at about $700,000, and there's a proposed cut of $20,000 or 20%, $140,000 to that. And so just to give you a little bit of background of what this program is, this is a program that's been in existence for about 50 years, and it's one of the unique aspects of Connecticut's libraries in comparison with our colleagues in other states. So in Connecticut, anyone with a public library card from a local community can go into any other public library and borrow materials from that library as if they were a local resident. That is a fairly unusual thing. In other states, you might have to pay for it. You might not be able to use those other libraries, which are typically intended for that specific local community. So here in Connecticut, we have access to about 13 million items across the collections in our public libraries that our residents have access to. And we also have about 1.1 million residents currently who have library cards. So about a third of our residents have library cards. And last year alone, we loaned about 2.5 million items were circulated through this program. So we anticipate, or we estimate, that if a local library, if this program was not in existence, the state would have to be paying, or libraries would have to be paying, about $38 million in comparison with that $700,000 that we're currently paying for access to all of those materials. So really, the impact could be felt in a number of different ways for our residents. We would anticipate that let me give you a little more background on this one. Of that $700,000, that has been reduced quite significantly since the program started. With inflation, it's about 64% of the reimbursements that we used to have in the program, and libraries receive about 14 cents on the dollar for their transaction costs. So what this program is doing is it's reimbursing libraries for the transaction cost, and that might be materials, it might be staff time, for when somebody comes in and borrows that physical item from a collection. 86% of those items are books, but it could be DVDs, it could be puzzles, it could be quite a lot of different items. And so those libraries are already feeling the pinch because they are contributing to this program to benefit everyone when really they're only being reimbursed for a small portion of their costs. And we would be concerned that if the funding were further reduced, as is proposed, that some libraries may say it's no longer worth participating, that this is something that they can no longer do and will have to really focus on supporting their specific residents. And so we would anticipate there may be some concern from libraries who feel that they can no longer participate, would pull out of the program, which would shift the burden to other libraries in the area. We also run a parallel delivery service, which is kind of the next topic we'll talk about, but we estimate that potentially up to 30% of those 2.5 million loans now might get shifted to our delivery service, which is also fairly underfunded and delicate given the funding status over the last few years. So we could see that shift, which would impact other aspects of resource sharing across the state. And I think one question people may have is, why should my town support the borrowing in another town? And I think, yes, there are some libraries that receive more funding. There are some libraries that have more robust collections than others, and some who are on the other end of the scale. But I think, as we see with public libraries generally, there's a feeling of collective support for state residents. And we also see that each library that participates, it is a reciprocal borrowing program. They must both lend and borrow. You cannot choose to just participate in one. So even if one library is more of a net lender than a borrower, they are still participating and supporting their surrounding areas. So depending on which community it is, everyone in your community may be supported by this program one way or another, even if it's not your specific local library that is doing more or less of one of those. So I'd be happy to give you some examples, but that is kind of overall what we would anticipate being some of the impacts of this program and why it is so important to our residents. It is really just a unique aspect of our library work that supports our residents across the state through what is a fairly small amount of funding. Before I go on to... Yes, go right ahead.
And selfishly, I have to say I'm a huge fan of that. I have used that program so many times, and I do think it's a unique, it's a really wonderful program on a personal level. I will say that. But anyway.
Thank you. We're always happy to hear about that because it's, and you know, a couple of examples of why somebody might do this is we might live in one town and work in another, and it's easier to get to one library, or a library might be closed for a renovation or a disaster, and so you're able to continue using those services. Or a book club might have decided to read a particular book, and your local library has 4 copies, but you have 12 people in your book club, and so you're able to participate. There's a lot of different ways how this program is used, and it is absolutely one of our most beloved services, and as I said, almost unique to Connecticut.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. So I will shift over to talk about the interrelationship with the delivery service, but are there any specific questions about Borrow It?
There any? I don't think so. It gave a very thorough explanation, and hopefully a lot of people know about it because they're using it too.
If you don't, now you do, so you can sign up for it. So I did want to just talk about Delivery and Borrow It next to each other because these are programs that are interrelated. They're part of that ecosystem, but they're often confused with each other because they are so closely related. Borrow It is the reimbursement specifically for the transaction cost of someone physically going to one library and checking out a material there. The delivery service is the interlibrary loan delivery service that we use to move materials on behalf of patrons from one library to another. And this is a service that the State Library operates essentially in support of the Borrow It program. So this would be a patron going into an online catalog, requesting an item from another library, either because their local library doesn't have a copy or because maybe it's not available, they're wanting a faster access to it. And so they can go on and request that from the other side of the state, the next town over, whoever happens to have that book, they're able to request it. The state library has a van system that runs throughout the state. We pick up those materials, we deliver it to the next library, and the patron is able to go to their local library and pick up that book. So that's how the two interrelate. And one of the questions was about the full cost of that service, because the state portion is actually less than half of the cost of the service that we operate currently. In total, we spent $866,807 on the service last year. $380,000 of that approximately comes from the state, and that is for salaries and fringe for 5 of our delivery drivers. So it does include the fringe and additional costs. And then from our federal funds, we receive about $2.16 million from the federal government currently. We spend the maximum amount of those dollars that we are able to on the delivery service, and that is $486,000 approximately a year. And that covers the other 5 delivery salaries and fringe again. We also lease the vans from DAS Leasing, so that's 10 vans that we lease each year. We also pay for all of the fuel, all of the maintenance and repairs. DAS is also self-insured, so if there is an accident, regardless of fault, we do pay for those repairs and maintenance. And then we also buy all of the supplies related to the service. So there's the bins, the hand trucks. It's quite a heavy load of materials that are used. So between the two, the federal dollars spend a little more than half of that, and then we make up the remainder with the state appropriations. But because neither of those are coming out of our personal services lines, we are having to pay the fringe and increases out of those dollars as well. So that was kind of specific to the delivery service. Again, I'll stop and ask if anybody has any questions about that.
I don't see any hands raised. So we can continue. Thank you.
Sure. So we had a couple other questions about our operating expenses line, other expenses. And so I did include a breakdown in the materials that we sent to you that has the full list of our expenses, as well as categories, kind of broad categories. And then I did list the 5 broadest categories in terms of our expenses. And so currently, assuming that the legislatively directed funds and other materials are moved out of our OE line, that is about $772,000 in our OE. And the majority of that cost, 72.7%, is building maintenance and security. So nearly 3/4 of our budget is simply to maintain our existing facilities. We have 4 locations across the state, including our historic site right across from the Capitol in the State Library and Supreme Court building. We have quite high utilities costs simply for our side of the building there. We also have several other locations across the state. In a year like this, we have a lot of snow removal, things like that. So building maintenance and security is 73% of our budget. Next would be property, equipment, leases, and supplies. That is about 20% of our budget. We estimate spending, we're going to jump in numbers quite significantly. About 2.3% of our budget will be spent this next year on our museum inventory. We're anticipating that will be a 5-year process that we'll be working with interns on. We'll also spend about 2.3% on employee reimbursement dues, membership, some things like that. 1.7% is on our public records responsibilities specific to destruction of documents. And then 1.6 is other expenses. So it was quite stark to see these numbers in terms of the support. And so one of the proposals before you is an increase of about $86,000 for our utilities. It would really go a long way to supporting those increased costs, and in part because that would give us some much needed relief in order to go back to spending some of our OE on our statutory responsibilities, in addition to sort of the maintenance of the facilities and requirements related to that. So that is our OE budget. Again, I'm happy to stop and answer questions and provide any other information as needed as well.
Are there any questions? Not on.
All right.
All right. They're quite proud. They ate lunch and now they've gotten quiet.
That's right.
Yeah.
I knew the last person you're talking to, so I'm standing in your way.
I think I got the itis.
Our last question was just about our other appropriations and some information about that. So we spend about $660,000 a year on our law and legislative materials. So these are the items that we buy for our reference library. We are a fully operational government reference library in addition to our many other responsibilities. So we have a law and legislative unit. We are the principal law library for the state. We also have a history and genealogy department. That is actually our most popular unit, where people come and do research on family history, probate records, military records, quite a variety of research needs that we meet through that unit. And then we also have a government information department. And so we are the place where agencies, the legislature send your records to us, and we are the access point for the public for all of those records. So we are responsible for preserving them long-term and in many cases permanently. And so we do spend, as I said, about $660,000 to purchase new materials and to maintain what we have. $275,000 of that is spent on online subscriptions, and the remainder is spent on print books. We do have conversations quite frequently about whether something should be purchased in print or electronically. In many cases, researchers prefer things electronically these days, but unfortunately, we also are often unable to actually buy permanent access to those resources. They may be leased for a period of time, and should we cease paying, they would go away, as well as the fact that print does continue to be the most stable format for materials. So we do balance kind of the patron needs versus the long-term support for those services. So that is our law and legislative line. We also receive $100,000 to support our Connecticut Library for Accessible Books. This is the library that supports those who are blind and low print and blind and low vision, or maybe print disabled in some way. So we spend funds for that on communications and outreach, education for both our staff and for librarians across the state to educate them on serving this population. We purchase materials and equipment, and well as some items for the collections for those patrons as well. So we are really grateful for the addition of these funds, which was added to our budget a few years ago. And we've added almost 2,000 new users since this funding came to the state library. So I did want to just note how much we are appreciative of that and the work that we are able to do because of it.
About how many patrons do you track a year who use those types of materials?
Currently, I could give you the exact number, but we have about 5,500 individual readers. Okay. And that is also, there are 286 institutions as well. We added 492 patrons last year. 400 to 500 is about what we have been adding each year. This is a service that patrons can use for life. And so we often will add people in. And then unfortunately, when they do pass away, they are no
Taken
longer
off.
on our rolls, but we estimate there are about 10,000 patrons in Connecticut who are eligible for the service. It is something that you have to be certified by someone to participate in. And it's a partnership that we have with the National Library Service for the Blind and Print Disabled, which is a unit of the Library of Congress. And so we do work in cooperation with them to provide the service each year. But again, as I mentioned earlier, we have about 1.1 million Connecticut residents who have a library card of our 3 million citizens. So we know that those numbers, it's often difficult to get to 100%, but we do quite a lot of outreach and engagement, particularly with this patrons group, because this may be the only way that they have access to those materials. And so our team, led by Matt Giza, who's our director, has really increased the work that we do in that area.
Do you have something for people who are deaf and hard of hearing?
That is not specifically part of our responsibility, but often we know that there are many patrons who are both blind and deaf. And so many of the services do work for both of them, and we provide as much service as we can. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Good to know.
Absolutely. In terms of other appropriations, we also have the statewide digital library, which we support. This is another initiative that came out of the legislature about 15 years ago in recognition of the increased desire for electronic materials. And so we spend about $2 million on that each year. We receive $1.7 million from the state, and we spend about $400,000 of our federal dollars to support these services as well. And much of what this is one, it's the infrastructure that supports the delivery service. So the mechanism by which libraries actually make those requests is something that is supported with this line. We're developing the software that is used in anticipation as part of that. We also provide a number of different databases to academic, school, and public libraries. So anyone who has a state library card is able to access quite a wide variety of those databases. This is also where we purchase our ebooks that we provide through the Palace ebook platform. And we know there are many libraries that would not be able to provide any electronic materials but for the Connecticut Digital Library. So this is really integral to the work that we are doing on behalf of our residents. And they may be materials that they're using in their classrooms. It might be research materials that they're using for papers, pleasure reading, everything in between. So it covers quite a wide gambit of materials that we provide. And I think that is all of our appropriations, but if I've forgotten one, let me know. But I would also be happy to answer any questions for you too.
See, are there any additional, I'm trying to see if any additional questions are here. I don't think so. I don't have any additional questions. Do you, Senator McCrory?
No, I don't. I'm all set.
Okay, thank you so much. This was very informative. Thank you so much. I
You're
really
very
appreciate it.
welcome.
Thank you for answering all of our questions. And should we have more, we know how to reach you.
Great.
So
Thank you so much. I appreciate
Have
it.
a good rest of the day. Thank you.
Too. Bye.
Bye-bye. So, Senator, I think we have come to the conclusion.
Yes, I think we're all done.
Okay, I think we're all done. All right, well, everyone, I can't see, hey, Jen, I can't see them, but I'm sure they're still here, but we have finished. And so we'll be seeing you all later. Stay warm and safe out there, and you get 10 minutes back. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Tammy.
Bye-bye.